Hello to everyone at home and welcome to the 12th edition of our New South Wales Referees Life Member Series. Tonight we're here with a man who often flies under the radar. He's a former first grade touch judge who has had some big achievements in his on-field career and he's contributed plenty off it. It's Max Dunn. Welcome, Max.
Hello, good afternoon or evening.
How are you? What are you doing in these difficult times to keep yourself busy and occupied?
Well, health-wise, we're still with it. The only troubles I've got, they've closed me men's shed. I've got it moved up to Villa 177 in my double garage. So I'm still doing men's shed work.
Oh, that's good.
Too much to my wife's pleasure. There it is. There, look.
Are you staying out of her hair?
Yes. Trying to.
So how's retirement treating you?
Good. I think you don't have to get up early if you don't want to. Got more time to do what you want to. Read the paper, do crosswords, work in the shed, go for a drive, shopping. Saves having to rush to go to work in the morning.
Oh, that's it. Living the life. So
Yes.
before we look back at your on-field career, can you fill us in a little bit about what work was for you?
Well, I started off in the railway in 1953 as an apprentice fitter and machinist at Elcar. That's it down the bottom there. And after 41 years of it and being told we weren't required anymore, I took redundancy. The best thing I did, I think.
So I've got a picture here on screen. Can you tell us a little bit about this picture? It's got to do with your work.
Well, at work, because we had a lot of time for lunchtime, working for the railways, they used to play rugby league. It wasn't touch, it was tackle. And there was a person by the name of Jack O'Brien who used to referee it. Was a first grade referee, quite a good one. I think he's the only one that joined the New South Wales Association in the beginning of the year and actually refereed the grand final at the end of it.
Is that right?
But yes, but we used to do quite a bit of over the board, several hours, and then from that I got my referee's ticket. And then I started to referee the football up there. Quite enjoyable.
So you took up the whistle way back in 1967 with Parramatta referees.
Yes.
You sent me here a picture. You're actually heading to your very first game. You touched on it just then. Can you tell us the full story of how you took up the whistle and why you took it up in those early days?
Well, I think it was all just from work, and at that time when I took up the whistle, I was playing A-grade tennis as well. Competition. And it got to the stage where Saturday afternoon football, Sunday morning tennis, and Sunday afternoon 2 lines at a centre, home to bed with the cramps. So it became one paid and one didn't. So not being a miser or anything, the money won't come to the fore. Yeah.
That's good. I think you asked me to crop off your chicken legs there, so you must have been pretty fit back in those days.
Yeah, you wouldn't have been able to see it. Those stupid socks.
And why Parramatta? Why, was it geographical? It was a local association?
Yeah, geographical. I lived at Wentworthville. So that was it.
Did you know anyone in the association at the time before you joined?
No. Well, no, we didn't, because we had any extra little lessons with Reg Dick. Nothing in Parramatta. We just popped down to the School of Arts one night and joined.
So you were graded into the New South Wales ranks in 1976 as member number 666, the devil's number. How did you find out about this grading and how did it come about?
Tuesday morning, you picked up the newspaper and you went down the list and, 3rd grade, touch judge at South Sydney. Hooray, I was in grade. No mention from anybody, nothing from the grade, our association, appointment board there, nothing. We just read it in the newspaper.
And you mentioned before that you were doing the President's Cup semi-finals leading into that?
Yes, at the Henson Park, yes. And all but for a little bit of a stuff up. I watched the finals. I missed out. But still in all, I got graded from that anyway.
So your debut as a first grade touch judge came in round 2 of 1980. It was Parramatta versus Eastern Suburbs at Cumberland Oval, the old Cumberland Oval.
Cumberland Oval.
Do you remember how you were informed of the appointment, and what were your memories of the game itself and leading up to the game?
Well, this one, you actually got a phone call. You know, it's first grade, you're going up to first grade, so that was it, you were told, and up you went and enjoyed it. I think the step up is a big step, like it is now. You know, the other was football. This is big time stuff. Nerves, yes, but you've got to get rid of them. If you go out with nerves, well, you're going to stuff up. So we just, you know, more or less it was another game, starting at a different time.
Now, you ran on that day with 2 late greats, Dennis Braybrook and Les Matthews.
Yep. Yes. Yep. My mate Leslie. Yep.
You were very close with him over the years.
Yeah.
Oh, you had a few great experiences with him throughout your career.
Yeah, with Les. The only one I had with Dennis Braybrook was one night in the dressing room when he informed me I was going down a grade. I thanked him very much for that and went out and trained. I think that were the words I said.
So at what point in your career did you take up the flag? Was this during your time at Parramatta? Was it after being graded? Were you graded as a ref, as a touch judge? How did that come about?
Well, it was about 3 years doing second division. And going all right, actually. Always in the first grade of it. And one night at a meeting, 2 of the appointment board come up. And Max, there you go, good. Got a question for you. Will you want to go back to the district or would you carry a flag? Well, my immediate answer was, what colour? Because in those days we had red and blue flags. There was no worries about where I was going. As a touch judge, yes. It was a bit old in the tooth, and I thought I could add to that.
Now, for many of the younger members, they won't actually know. Can you explain a little bit about the red and the blue flag, the meaning?
The blue flag, there was no senior flag. There was a red and a blue one. The blue one always ran out first and went to the far side. And the red flag did the short side, and we just changed it half time. But we didn't have, I'm the senior ref or touch judge. No, it was just different coloured bit of material on it.
So who were some of the mentors or influential figures coming through the grades from Parramatta and then your early time in grade?
Yeah, Ian McCall, Connors a little bit, and my mate Braybrook, he helped quite a bit. Kevin Roberts and those people that came in, you know, more or less a little bit earlier or later, but it was, you know, working with them is a different ball game altogether. When you work with a first grade referee, it's a different game. Everybody listens to you and you're not fobbed off like that might happen in lower grades. Yep.
And we'll touch on it later on when we talk about Parramatta District in more detail, but there's quite a synergy between you and Mr. McCall. You've been together in games throughout your time at Parramatta. You've developed an exceptional friendship. It seems like where one goes, the other follows.
Yes. And actually, we still meet. Yep.
You're almost like 2 old ladies, we say at Parramatta.
Yep. 2 old ducks. No, we still now and then, before this coronavirus come in, we used to go up to Lake Parramatta once a month and have lunch up there. You know, you go to Parramatta referees together as both being patrons, but always been very friendly.
Yes, certainly.
Yep.
Certainly. So in 1983, you got your first sort of big appointment as a touch judge. You touch judged the City versus Country seconds. Do you remember much about this experience?
Where was that, at Newcastle?
I think it was at Newcastle.
No, and again, like something like that is, and the nerves do set in. You've had a whole half a week to think about it, but excitement. And it was, it was a City Country game. So up we went and we saw it. Patricia, I would have taken Patricia with me to sit on the grandstand and doing this and all that.
Yep.
But it's different football.
Yeah, it is different these days. We don't have the City versus Country seconds. Can you explain a little bit? What was City versus Country seconds?
Well, I think the people missed out on City Country first.
Yeah.
They just had to have enough players. They had plenty of players. And some of them had to play in seconds.
Yeah. So they didn't actually come from a reserve grade or anything like that. They were actually just
they were actually
the next
first
30
grade players.
30, the next 30 blokes.
The next lot of 17.
Yeah. And it was really sort of a trial for State of Origin back then.
Yeah. Even they were on trial in the second grade, Everybody was.
Now, in 1984, without doubt, your biggest appointment, well, I think on paper it's your biggest appointment. I wonder if you agree. Up until this point in your career is Game 3 of State of Origin in 1984 at Lang Park. Can you tell us a little bit about the feelings you had leading into that game and the match itself and the experience being at the very hostile Lang Park?
Well, there wasn't much sleep in the nights before. Very excited, and actually went up there with one of my best friends, Kevin Roberts. And the biggest part was you didn't go into the referee's room unless you went through the bar. Well, Kevin Roberts was well liked by Queenslanders, so we got a big raspberry going through there. So, needless to say, seeing New South Wales won it, it was quite late when we left because we weren't going out through the bar and cop it again. But it was the intensity of the game. It's no different to what it is now. And at Lang Park, if you turn around and put your hand on the fence, you're that close to the crowd, booing and hissing and carrying on. It's just, you can't hear yourself think, the noise.
So it was a definite step up from first grade, week in, week out?
Oh, yes, for sure. Yep.
How did you find out about that appointment in those days?
Again, a phone call from Eric, my mate, another one, my mate's Eric. And actually, I think that one, I missed out on a line for England and Australia in a test match about a week or two before it. And then I got appointed to this, and honestly, I know the other one's an international, but I think this is a much more intense game than as test match, the pressure.
Yeah. No,
I think that time running in there is most likely to have a word with, no, that's not the one, we had a word with Wally.
I think there was one after a try. I remember you talking to me that you came in and you reported Wally Lewis, and tongue in cheek, you said you almost regretted that.
Yeah. Well, I had to go back and run on the line, didn't I? I didn't get the Mick Stone throwing cans at you. It's not so bad if they're full ones, but it's only 4X anyway.
Well, actually, when we talked to Mick Stone, he said he wasn't too sure that it was actually alcohol in those cans. They'd been going to relieve themselves early in the night because it was that packed you couldn't get out.
But let's say at Lang Park, the people, it's jam-packed and they're all screaming. And you can hardly hear yourself talk. The sound of it. That is the most intense game I've ever been on. It's just crazy.
I'm sure it would have been a big thrill too that you actually got to go to Lang Park rather than, an Origin would have been nice in Sydney too, every Origin.
It would have been, but
the actual travel.
If you give that Origin an 80 in Sydney, this will be 150. You know, just the going up there and the pressure and all, the noise. You wouldn't get that sort of noise down here. Because they are, man.
And those were the days where you used to have a Queensland and a New South Wales touch judge.
Yes, and I still got it. See the size of the flag? It's it's according to the rule book, it's the right size. It's 18 inches by 9 inches on the flag. It's a triangular flag. And there's a woman used to make them. A blue one had New South Wales on it. The red one had Queensland on it, and it's hanging out in the garage at the moment. Okay. I tell you, when you used to give the old whip, you have to watch your ears. But so long, look at the length of it.
Yeah, they do.
18 inches. 18 inches. Well, but apparently in the rule book, that's the size.
Okay.
Not oblong.
Now we'll move on to an interesting. You had a couple of interesting moments in your career that you were involved in. None in particularly your fault. There's one also in 1984. You were part of a match on a Wednesday night at the SCG. The referee was John Gosher. It was between Balmain and Eastern Suburbs. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened that Wednesday night?
Oh, everything's going swimmingly. But I don't know if anybody's been on the cricket ground when the lights go out. And I mean lights everywhere. The stand, nothing round the streets, nothing. And you're in the middle of the paddock and you think over there is where the grandstand is, or you hope it is. And you just go over and just feel for the fence. You just could not see. It was pitch black. Because we finally got up and Mr. Quayle was in charge then, and he said to Gosher, right, how are you going to start the game? Gosher told him with the scrum. He said, where? He said, where the ball last was. Where was it? Good, eh? We just went out and picked the spot that was close enough. You wouldn't have a clue. But that was it. Stupid lights. And they were off for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, well, it actually says here on that article, it was off for 21 minutes.
21, yeah.
Quite an extended time. Now, another strange occurrence that happened in 1985, there was somewhat of a fuss caused in the media surrounding players' equipment in the match between Canterbury and North Sydney. Now, you had first-hand experience of this match. Can you tell us a little bit of the story?
Well, as we used to do in those days, you'd go into the dressing room and you'd check the players, but you wouldn't do it too early because you go to check boots and they were quite good. In the last 5 minutes, somebody would be changed them, you know, so you did it late. But the Bulldogs players asked us, the other mob, North Sydney asked us just to check number 6. We didn't know why. So we got number 6 and there was absolutely nothing wrong with his shoulder pads. This is about 3 or 4 minutes before the game. Nothing. So out we go, and I think it's about 10 minutes before the end of the first half. The captain, was it Pommy bloke, I think, come up and said to the referee, could you check number 6's shoulder pads? They're very hard. So we went in, and he had fiberglass strips in his shoulder pads. And put another set of shoulder pads on in that last couple of minutes before going out. So we finally got them changed, and I'm waiting in the room to make sure he doesn't do any fiddling again. So we go out there and we hear the whistle blow. It started the game without us. They forgot all about it. And luckily, I was on this side, so we went and joined them on. It was about 2 or 3 minutes into the second half of the game. But there's quite a bit in the paper about it and all this and that. And, you know, yes, shoulder pads.
Yeah. And those were the days.
These little strips. They're little strips of fiberglass. Oh, were they hard? They were like rocks.
And those were the days where the boots were actually, all of them were metal studs and they were
metal studs, yes. That's what you found at Eastern Suburbs when they played on the sports ground. They used to do the warm-ups out in the footpath. So they were one that definitely you couldn't get them until they run out in the paddock.
Yeah.
Because just, stupid. Yep.
So A significant
You
grade
forgot to mention
grand final
very
appointment
tolerant was.
came your way. That's Pat in the background. She said how tolerant you were. I'm sure. I'm sure we'll get time to talk about how tolerant Pat is later on when we talk about contributions.
And she's not allowed to swear.
You've already broken that rule once. All right, so you got a significant grade grand final appointment, came in 1987 when you did the touchline of the Commonwealth Bank Cup final at Parramatta Stadium. The referee was Phil Cooley, and the other touch judge was Noel Sislowski, Scissors.
Scissors?
Now, you backed this up with the same appointment a year later in 1988, where Ian McCall was the other touch judge and Bill Harrigan was the referee. How did you find schoolboy football back then and those experiences? It was quite a thing back then.
Well, as I say, the only difference was they weren't as big, as robust as what they are in first grade, but the football is equal to it. Oh, the football is equal to it. It's just fantastic football, especially at the final series.
Yep. And there were some really good teams back then in those days. Fairfield,
yes, Queensland mob,
Keebra Park, that featured year on year.
Yep.
Now these games, many of the life members I've talked to so far have mentioned these games were ranked quite highly. They were almost the next game out of first grade in those days on the appointment sheet.
Yes, that's for sure. Yep. It was an honour, it was a grand final.
And they were run
before
the Panasonic Cup in those days?
Yes. Yeah. Panasonic Cup, another good one.
So
there's a bit of a trap at Leichhardt. You got to make sure you don't watch the aeroplanes.
At Leichhardt?
Just Leichhardt. They are going to land. They go right over the top. Because there's always that one, you just have to look up and Cox will be on the stand and whoop, that'd be his half time.
You didn't happen to miss anything, did you? Looking at an aeroplane?
No, I don't think so.
Because they used to play most of the Panasonic Cup games at Leichhardt, yes?
Leichhardt, yeah.
And they had teams from throughout Australia. They had combined Brisbane.
Yeah, countries, all the country teams come down. They win it one year, country one. Anyway.
So midweek football was quite a popular thing back then.
Yes. Yep. Nice and cold at Leichhardt.
Now we move on. In 1988, you were appointed to touch judge your first test match between Australia and Papua New Guinea in Wagga Wagga at Eric Weasel Oval. At the time, it actually set the record for the highest international score of 70.8 and the biggest crowd in Wagga Wagga of 11,500. Again, Les Matthews was on the line with you, and you got to officiate with New Zealand referee Neville Kesher. What were your memories of this experience?
A lot of running. I know that much. Neville was when you look at it, say it, but there's the standard of our referees compared to what they like. It's just they didn't have the type of football. But there's no rubbish in the game. So therefore, we didn't have time for any rubbish in the game. So it was pretty easy to handle. Actually, it's just one end of the field and back up again and away you go. We're pretty stuffed when we finished. But which one's? Oh, no, I'm not the tall one. Yeah.
And how were Papua New Guinea as a team to handle back then?
Yeah, good. Just they didn't have the same sort of standard as what Australian players. That was the problem. They just ran right through them. When you look at some of those Australian players, Langer, Meninga, Wally Lewis, Tony Curry, just straight through them. Good.
But they were very happy people, loved the game, enjoyed rugby league, enjoyed the experience, took it all in.
I think that'd be the place to go to watch the people and the enjoyment they get out of it, regardless of what happens.
Yep.
They're just mad. That's what they've got to do over there, isn't it? Rugby league. Yep.
Now, this was actually part of the 1985 to 1988 World Cup. It sounds a bit strange. So what actually happened, instead of having a World Cup like they do nowadays, they ran matches all throughout the world from 1985 to 1988. And then Australia ended up playing in the final.
Yeah. Yep.
So it was a bit different back then.
Yeah, I suppose so, yeah.
So 1989 was your last year as a touch judge. Can you talk to us a little bit about the end of your first grade career as a touch judge?
Well, Peter Ryan, we ran quite a bit together.
From Canterbury?
He gave it away for Canterbury, yeah.
Yep.
He gave it away one year, and then me being, I don't know what I was going to prove or anything, but I had a spur and I decided I'd keep running. And it got to the end, it was a hobble, not a run. And I should have, like most things, you always go that 1 year too long. I'd have been better off going out the year before this. But we lasted the year and that was it. There was no suggestions of throwing the boots away, I just pulled the plug myself.
So I think you were quite fortunate in a way, although it was injured. You got to go out on your own terms instead of being tapped on the shoulder.
Yes.
So in 1990, the league introduced in-goal touch judges during the final series. How or why did the introduction of this initiative come about? Now, we'll just watch a video clip here. It's got some sound, and then I'll get you to comment about in-goal touch judges and why they came in. We might see in here the importance of the in-goal touch judge. We see Max Dunn here in action. It's Penrith versus North Sydney.
Trying to hang on out wide. The kick. Paul's coming. Zurab's there. Zurab's too late. They get it. The Bears make a second comeback. Soden on the MMI replay and Jackson drawing the quickly. Paul comes over. Zurab hesitated.
Thank heavens for in-goal touch judges. We'll see why in a moment, but Jackson put the ball through in behind the defensive line. Zurab waited it for the bob up. If it was going to go dead on its own, it wasn't. Paul got it down and the in-touch judge was able to adjudicate.
Yeah, great thinking here from Peter Jackson. He saw that there was a big gap in behind the line. It obviously communicated.
So the comment there from Channel 10's Bill Anderson is, thank God for in-goal touch judges. Was there a push at that time with controversial decisions in the in-goal? Was there thinking from the league that we needed someone for those close groundings?
Well, maybe that was it. You know, I don't actually know what they were really thinking about. But we did make a difference. But the in-goal judges today to what we used to do is altogether different. We're in-goal judges, but we judge from the dead ball line. We went across the dead ball line, you know, and there's none of this coming up the paddock or down. Our job was outside the paddock, and if I thought it was a try, I would backpedal and let the ref. I didn't have to talk, just backpedal, and he'd know straight away that my thoughts, it was a try. If I stayed there, then he'd ask.
There were often, on vision of replay games, you can often see on a cold winter's night the in-goal touch judge even wearing the old TNT jacket.
Yes. But getting back to that idea, going back to referee in Canberra in the middle of winter, Johnny Connor told me, you get a plastic bag, you cut a hole for your head, 2 holes for your arms, and underneath your shirt. If it gets a bit warm, boy, do you sweat, but you don't feel the cold. It just doesn't blow through. That was a good idea. But down at Canberra was better than that because the rubber would come around just before half time and ask you if you wanted tea or coffee.
I think sports science has come a bit of a way since then, Max. They now have undershirts instead of plastic bags.
Yeah.
So for you personally, as we said, you moved into this role in 1991. So you completed 2 seasons in first grade as an in-goal touch judge. Now, you got the grand final in 1991 for the match between Penrith and Canberra. Penrith had lost the year before to Canberra, and Penrith got up in this game. What were your memories of grand final week and then grand final day in the Winfield Cup?
Well, again, it was the excitement. You know, you go down, we went to the launch and the breakfast and all that, and everybody got invited. I can still remember not dobbing anybody in, but Harrigan said, I don't care, Dunny, what it looks like, but I'm going to you all the time. But it was different then. We were allowed in the in-goal area then. You know, you got a bird's eye view of it. And really, you wonder why some people sit at the back. And you really see where the movements are and where the holes are and that. But I think very exciting. It's a first grade. It's a grand final, mate.
Yeah, a feather in your cap.
And you even got a Rofton's medal.
I think watching back the game, you didn't actually have too many try-scoring decisions to make in that game. I think it was Canberra a little bit in the first half, and then they swapped ends, and then I think Penrith scored 1 try in the first half, but then the second half it was all Penrith down the other end. Royce and scoring the winner down the other end. So you stayed out of trouble, Max.
Yes. Yeah, we didn't change ends. We just went to the same place, and it's very exciting. The day, the whole day, the night. You know, it's grand final football. Regardless of where you are on the field or sitting in the grandstand, the excitement is very good.
Now, we heard your lovely wife Pat in the background before. She's been a great supporter of your career, and she's supported you since your retirement in everything you've done outside of the field and coaching and mentoring referees. Did she get to go to many of these big games and watch?
Actually, I don't know how it happened, but that grand final, they put our wives in Bay 13, right alongside the dugout, right where they come out of the stand.
Okay.
And about 7 or 8 rows back, so quite a good view of the game. But yeah, if she didn't come, when I was doing lines, even when I was refereeing, I did a couple of under 23s at Brookvale Oval. Was one of them, and we could hardly get into the ground. I was on the first game, and it was under 23s, whatever it was, and the Brookvale was packed out before we even started. It was against Parramatta. That's when tries were 3 points, a long time ago.
Fierce rival.
But she used to come every day, yeah. When we got the kids, it was a little bit different.
Now, we'll touch on your kids later on. They actually get involved in refereeing themselves. Probably the last, but another big milestone for you was in-goal touch judge in Origin in 1992. Now, you did one earlier in Queensland on the line. This one's at home at the SFS in the in-goal. What was this experience like for you? David Manson was the referee.
Yeah. It was still alive, but again, not like up there. If you've got to do a state of origin at Lang Park, I don't know what it's like in the new one, that's the ultimate. This is number 2, mate. This is still an origin, and the football's different altogether to what they play. It's just amazing what they can do with the ball. I don't have any decisions. Have any decisions?
I don't think so from memory. I think it was another pretty straightforward day at the office.
Easy money.
As an in-goal touch judge, you're speaking from personal experience, you can often get very lucky and have a very quiet day, or you'll get the opposite and you'll get absolutely everything come your way.
Yeah. I think what I would rather is have something through the game, because otherwise you're standing there and think, well, what am I doing out here? And all of a sudden something does happen and you've got to really switch on. I think if you've got more to do through the game, It keeps you switched on, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's almost like cricket. You've got to get your eye and keep your concentration. Otherwise, you'll miss that one decision, that one moment where you have to make a big call.
Yeah. So that was that one there. We're standing in goal, but earlier, no, you weren't in there. You're outside the line.
All right. So the end of your on-field career comes at the end of 1992. Now we're going to touch on plenty of what you've done off the field. One of the first things that you were involved in, I think you actually did a little bit of it whilst you were still active. You worked on a project headed by fellow Parramatta referee, you can see in the photo, Ian Parnaby. It was a book about the mini and mod games. It was titled Explanatory Notes on the Laws of Mini Footy and Mod League. What was the purpose of this book, and how did your involvement come about? You're also involved in the compilation of another book, Refereeing Stage 1 Laws of the Game.
Well, in our days, I think but it's still the same. The only book to really have was the Tom Ballou explanatory notes. There was questions and answers. And Mini Mod had nothing like that. It just had the rules. So Parnaby asked, and we got together and we did exactly the same as the Tom Ballou book, but for Mini Mod. And I think it was quite a good book. It just had all questions and answers. Went through the whole game, but in the back was questions and answers. And it's, if you didn't cheat, it was good. Don't look at the answers.
It actually steps it out. It starts off from the kickoff and from restarts and goes through thousands of situations that can occur.
Like on kickoffs, you can get 28 questions because there's that many rulings on a kickoff.
Now you can see TNT. TNT was a big sponsor through the late 70s, all through the 80s and early 90s. Now, they helped the association, the New South Wales Association, make great strides forward and invest in resources such as communication gear and these books. Can you tell us a little bit about the impact TNT had that you saw firsthand?
Well, actually, that shirt we used to wear was quite heavy, actually, because it just wasn't printed on. That was 3 levels of material on your shirt. There was a black bit, then the white bit, and then the letters. And it got quite heavy. But they definitely made a game, a difference to our game. You know, we didn't have to buy gear and everything was supplied. I've still got 2 white touch towels. It was one of the first things we ever got. Now, why you'd give referees white towels, I don't know. With a big TNT all over them. No, big bar-sized towels. I've still got them outside. That's God, how long ago was that? But definitely made a difference.
Now back onto your mate Ian McCall, they actually provided funding that helped him. He was the president in the late 80s, and it actually paid for him to be somewhat part-time in his role.
Yes. Yep.
I believe did he have an office in, or?
No, I don't think he had an office. Wouldn't be sure.
Or a room in at their offices?
I don't know. I'd only be guessing. But I know he got remuneration for it, you know.
Yep. Now, speaking from personal experience, I can remember countless hours being spent at your old Constitution Hill home where we used to go through video games, and you were always very giving of your time and helping and mentoring. You've served in many different roles for the New South Wales Referees Association, including the junior reps coach with Les Matthews and Michael Ryan during the late 90s and early 2000s. One other major role that you were a part of was the seminar committee for the association, organising CMO courses and the like. Can you tell us a little bit about what this role entailed?
We started off, Stoney did the first course. It was called a Coach Match Day Officials one. Oh, no, Train the Trainer. And my job wasn't a coordinator, I was the gopher. Go for this, go for that. Stoney would say, 2 minutes, Dunny. So Dunny would go down and go for, get the morning tea and then go up the street and buy some soft drinks for later. But that was it, was a gopher. if anything wanted printing, I'd go down the office and get it printed, and that was the job. And it just sort of changed over, not so much a gopher when David J was, but a helper.
Yeah.
You know, that's one person quite happy to work with at any time. A brilliant person in courses. Yeah, right, that's another point.
No.
But that's how it started. And I think it was quite a few years I did it until, you know, a lot of first grade referees would have gone through it. Country referees, they come from the country. You know, we could have 20 people each time doing, we end up not just one level one, it could be 2 or 3 in a year. And Narrabeen was just the place to do it. We had a big room up the back which we could set up and leave set up, and the big hall down the bottom for meals and that, and an oval to run on, and quite good there.
So that the CMOs, were they largely for ARLRA or were they New South Wales?
No, New South Wales.
Okay.
I think
And
they got involved with it.
Okay. And then you also, I remember you also
I
organised...
think it started off with New South Wales and then the ARL come into it.
Yep.
So I know Betsy used to supply us with shirts and that, you know, with ARLRA on it, and our level 2 coaches and all that, which now is gone.
And then you used to also organise or help organise the seminars for the inter-districts where they'd come together.
Inter-district and the grade ones.
Associations where they'd come to discuss common issues and plan for the year ahead.
And all the presidents to get a meeting, and then the secretaries at another meeting, and so forth, and away we go. And most of those were held at Narrabeen also.
Yeah.
It's just that I think for what you got, the money was good, and I had no problem with what we wanted to do because we'd been there that many times.
Yeah.
Everybody was happy with us. We never played up, no silly things. Quite good.
And as a former,
that's another story.
And as a former treasurer at Parramatta Referees, Max is we all know he's very stringent with the money and very responsible with how it's spent.
It was only 70 years, wasn't it?
Now, you are co-patron of the Parramatta Referees Association, along with Ian McCall, a name we mention quite often, but it's a name that deserves to be mentioned quite often because his contribution to refereeing and rugby league in general is immense. This must be a proud position for you to fulfil, particularly the esteemed company you're in with Ian McCall.
Especially with Ian. You know, it would be with anybody, but I don't, because I had a lot of suntan, I don't have it. If it's the same tribe, I don't know, but he's a good bloke, mate. It's sad for what the disease he's got at the moment, you know, it's really sad. But he's still there.
He is. Now, you used to tell me you weren't patron because you were the oldest.
Was that the reason?
That's what
Johnny Connor's older than me.
So, you received life membership of Parramatta Referees, and you're still very much a part of the weekend grind at the district football level. We continue to grow and learn throughout our careers, even off the field. What's something you've learnt from your experiences with Parramatta post-refereeing through your coaching and mentoring of young people? Is there anything that you've learnt, the way you approach things or the way you deal with people?
Honesty. Be fair dinkum. Don't riddle in people's pockets. If it happens, it happens. You know, it's no good beating around the bush. I know you do a little bit different with new referees, and with the older boys, they've got to be told. They've got to be told. It's no good, wishy-washy. And that's the way I believe. If it's needed to be said, it's said. And they most likely find that out at meetings we go to.
I think right through, I think people do appreciate honesty. They'd rather be told how it is than hiding behind things. Now, we touched on it earlier, but you had quite a family flavour going there for a while at Parramatta. Your daughter, Kerry, was one of the first female rugby league referees back in the 1980s. And your son, Michael, was also a referee in his own right. Both of them won the Junior Achievement Awards and were pretty capable. Can you outline a little bit about how they got involved? Was there a big influence from you? And were you very proud?
No, Michael played football up to under 16s, and the collar got broken, and he decided, well, this is no good, so he wanted a referee. And as I say, we had plenty of time at that time to do mini mod lectures, because that's what you got first.
Yep.
So we did plenty of those, and he became a referee. And I didn't travel with him that many times. I don't think it's right. I let him go because other people would be looking after him. But I think with Kerry being a female, I hung around a bit more. I know there was an utter idiot from Lola Park that used to give her a bit of a serve. I solved that problem. I just walked along with him, and every time they knocked the ball, I said, God, have a go at that idiot. Can't even hang on to the ball. And he took 5 minutes and he shut up. So that was good. But if we'd have had Kerry's initiative, no, Kerry's speed and Michael's initiative would have been good.
Yep.
But Kerry she refereed and ran lines in Armidale. She went to Armidale Teachers at university. She did lines up there. Come back to Canberra and refereed in Canberra. With a little bit of trouble with. So she just got jack of it and just wasn't worth the problems.
Yep.
Actually, we had a photo of Kerry. I should have got it for. There's a bloke, Crawford, used to write for the Daily Telegraph, back page, years ago. And when she went to James Roos, she used to go on the bus with him and talk about everything. And when she got into a referee's ticket, he come down and took a photo of Kerry on Ringrose Park, blowing a penalty, and end up on the back of the Telegraph, on the first page in. But actually a full-page shot of Madam here blowing a penalty with a finger up and a silly bit of sticky tape on it. On Ringrose Park.
So you've been a...
Yes, well, I was very proud of,
Yep.
as any father would if your kids going to the same thing as you're in.
So you've been a member of the Parramatta Referees Association for over 50 years. Not just a member, but a continual contributor throughout that time. You've long been a part of the Parramatta Referees coaching and appointments panels, and you've received multiple representations of your life membership to mark the various anniversaries throughout. This feat is only matched by the late Kevin Jeffs and Ian McCall, as we've touched on. What does this place, Parramatta Referees, mean to you? It must hold a special place in your heart, Max.
Well, I suppose, like all members from other associations, I think it's one of the best. A lot of camaraderie and things. Everybody works with everybody, look after everybody's back. And we've all been great friends going, like Graham Annesley. We got him up there now,
Yep.
But it was, just, I suppose whatever association I'd joined, it'd most likely been the same. I just couldn't keep my nose out of it. I had to always be involved. I said treasurer for 17 years, which I don't actually know why I give it away, but most likely got jack of it.
I think that's something we've always found with you, Max. You always find it hard to say no when someone comes knocking and comes asking for help. You often find no is a word that you don't often say. So
I generally get the no. Yeah, I generally get the no, but that's a bit later when they've all gone. Oh, not again.
I think that's.
But she puts up with me.
I think that's the important point you raised earlier too, is that each of the associations, I'm sure, would be the same. And then what's pleasing to see is then when people come out of the associations and come into New South Wales referees, they form those friendships and those connections as well at a whole new level.
Yeah.
So you became a life member of the New South Wales Referees Association in 1998. What did this recognition mean to you?
It was a great honour, to be a life member of any associations, and being a life member of Parramatta, New South Wales, the defunct ARLRA. We have a thing that runs with the railway, and I'm a life member of that, so there's not many left. But when you get to that point, you've got to be really proud.
You certainly do.
666. I don't look like the devil, do
I? No, not at all. Now,
I'm quite a passive person.
The plaudits and accolades continue to come your way. In 2010, you became the third recipient after, I think, Jack Harrison and Jack O'Sullivan, my apologies, and Dennis Bagarino, the recipient of the prestigious Eric Cox Medal. This must have been a very proud moment for you.
Well, I was that proud that when I got up there, I forgot to thank my wife, which was very good. I don't make a lot of speeches in front of people. It wasn't real long. I know when I did my life member one, I had to finish in about 5 minutes, but Gilchrist helped out. He did the rest of it. But to have Eric Cox medal, we have a look at the medal, you can't really see. When they took it down to get it struck for the medal, to make the medal, the bloke says, haven't you got one with him smiling? Their answer was no. Eric never smiled. But that's one of the highest honours, the Eric Cox medal. He was one, he didn't muck around. If you were going to be told something, you got told, and you weren't put in a corner and told. Whoever there, you just copped it, which is my way of thinking. If you've got to be told, you've got to be told. It's no good fiddling around. But that was a very great honour.
And I think that's a continual theme. If you look what the actual award's for, it's for contribution following your life membership. So a lot of these things, you've got your life membership at Parramatta, life membership in New South Wales, you've continued to make the contributions post those years. As you mentioned before, you're also a life member of the ARLRA. It's now defunct.
In their wisdom.
How did that come about? That's a little bit different, the way the life membership comes about for that association.
Well, the members of the association actually, at the meeting, they nominate people. And I was lucky that David J, I think what would help, I worked with David doing those courses, and at this time the ARLRA were involved mainly with those courses, but just to come that when money was needed, New South Wales paid for it. But they were actually in the running of it. And I think that was, David come out and said, you're in the running. There was a vote to go, and I got it. And again, I say that was another achievement, which was to the heart, mate.
Especially seeing, I think there's only about 16 or 18 life members in that association. So, in recent years, you've acted as an interchange official for NRL games and in similar roles for New South Wales. How did you find these roles, from being beyond the touchline but still being involved?
How did I find them?
Yep.
2 words, still, or 3, still being involved.
That's 3 words.
Instead of 3 was still being involved. I've only got 3 right now. So, it was just still there. You've got to keep your nose in it. Sticky beat, can't get out of it. That was the thing.
I think that's just
actually I also did ground manager as well as the interchange, but then too many whinges, especially in those second division games and that. So I decided I'll just carry the card, mate. That'll be enough.
Yeah, I think that's just a sign of how much you actually enjoy the game and actually being involved, that you can continue to this day to fulfil such a role.
Yeah. Actually, a true story, going back to grade, South Sydney. I'm doing South Sydney's interchanges. At that stage, you could only do 2. It's all you can do, 2 at the one time. The rest of them had to wait up the paddock for me to come back. Well, I did 2, and one of them went past me. So anyway, this bloke comes down with a card. Got to go on. I said, what do you mean? So here he is banging me on the head with it. Number 3, he's banging me with it. said, who'd you replace? Where? He said, go up the tunnel, because I saw this bloke go up the tunnel, so on he goes.
Oops.
About 5 seconds later, I walked past South Sydney's dugout. Oh, who was the coach? Well, I can't mention what he said, but that player was on the paddock for about 10 seconds before he was off again. Well, I got a little messy. I went and reported it and told the ground manager and all that, being honest and can't stuff it up. So I got a phone call about Tuesday next week, and being told that I'm still there, try and concentrate more. They got 10,000 because what got me off it was this bloke getting over there with the card.
Yep.
So I did have 11 players, extra player on that paddock.
I think that shows how much scrutiny and pressure there's on, no matter what role you have in the game.
Well, see, it's all on screen.
Yeah.
And that's where they got it. They got it on the screen because the game was down that end of the paddock. If it hadn't been down there to the paddock, nobody would have known different. Well, they don't know the extra player, but they wouldn't have known what he was doing to me.
So before we head into our last quick fire rapid questions, I've been asking all the life members, what's something that you have gained out of the game that's really important to you? So we're all missing this game. It's a good time to reflect with no football on. What is it that rugby league has given us? What's something it's given Max Dunn that he'll take with him forever?
Enjoyment and the companionship of all the other referees and wise, and not just for me, but for Patricia also, because everybody's involved, mate. And it's just the camaraderie. It's just not the same now. You used to go to the dinners and down to and watch the grand final, but we still all get together and we're all old farts, and it's just a good life.
Yeah,
I don't know what I'd have done if I hadn't been doing it.
Yeah. I think the association has always done and still does that very well, that it's not just the referees, but they keep the partners, the wives, boyfriends, girlfriends involved. So it's a real family atmosphere. All right. So to finish off, quick fast five: barbecue or tomato sauce?
Barbecue.
Ford or Holden?
How about Toyota?
I was going to say, how's your Toyota Corolla going, Max? I saw it in the garage. Now, you've been involved in both of these, state of origin or grand final?
State of origin. That's a 10 out of 10. I'd give a test match or grand final 9, mate. It's just, I just say, why it's a 10, I think it's because it was at Lang Park.
Yeah.
It's
now
just the atmosphere.
For someone that frequently travels up the coast to Woolgoolga near Coffs Harbour, beach or snow?
Colour-wise, I think I'm going to get a bit of a tan up at Nambucca Heads now.
And last one to finish, money or free time?
What a silly question. Money.
Haven't all my questions been silly so far? Money.
No, I quite appreciate it, mate. So thank you for your time and effort.
No, Max, for someone who I've known for all of my refereeing career to date, and someone who I've always had great respect for, and you've always had time for me, it's been an absolute thrill to talk to you tonight and hear some of your wisdom and some of your stories. You stay safe. Look after Pat at home.
Patricia, yep.
And I look forward to
look after me, yep.
Hopefully seeing you face to face sometime soon when this whole thing is over.
Yeah. Rightio. Thank you, Dave. David. Lutringer, Daniel.
See you, Max. Bye for now.
See ya. Bye.